We live in a world where stories are more powerful than truth, where the lines between fact and fiction are constantly blurred. What if the characters we grew up with, the ones we trusted, have a past we were never meant to see? What if their smiles hide a much darker, much more disturbing reality? These are the disturbing videos that will raise more questions than answers.
This girl showed up in her class photo 3 weeks after her funeral. In 1962, the town of Ivy Ridge, Pennsylvania, recorded its highest birth rate in history. By 1974, almost every child from that generation had vanished. Officially, the town blamed a series of unsolved accidents. But retired Sheriff Carl Dempsey later confessed there was more. In an old school photo taken in spring of '70, 8 smiling children posed for the camera. One of them, a girl named Lily Owens, is shown wearing the same dress she was buried in. Problem is, that photo was taken 3 weeks after her funeral. Locals whispered about a tunnel beneath the school sealed off in the '50s after several workers disappeared during construction. They say it was reopened in 1973, not officially, but by something else. In November '74, maintenance workers found 11 wooden chairs arranged in a circle in the basement. The chairs were still warm. Nobody ever found out who or what had been using them. The tunnel entrance is now bricked up. They say at night, you can still hear children laughing beneath the floorboards.
A girl shows up to class 3 weeks after her funeral. The video offers no explanation. It simply presents a paradox that defies a logical answer, a ghost in the machine of our reality.
This was the most evil lady that ever lived. Her name was Crystal Methans, and in the late 1800s, she was known in her small town for being different. People thought she was just mentally ill. She'd sit in the yard for hours grinning at nothing, but then children started disappearing. At first, it was just 1 or 2. They blamed it on wild animals or bad luck, until a hunter stumbled across a clearing deep in the woods. He found dolls made of real hair and bone, nailed to the trees. When they searched her home, they found what was left of the missing kids, hidden in the walls, under the floorboards and in her basement. She had kept them close, like pets. When they dragged her away, she started to scream and cry, saying, "Don't take them away, they are my children." And before they could lock the cell door, she whispered, "I just wanted them to stay little forever." The police later found out that she once had 2 kids that were grown enough to be taken away to war, never to be seen again. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison.
A story about a woman who lost her children only to take the lives of others. It's a tragedy twisted into a nightmare. This video raises the most terrifying question of all. When does grief become something monstrous? If you're enjoying this video, hit the like button. It's free and it really helps the channel.
This is the real Ronald McDonald, not the one you remember from commercials. The smell of red paint, the silence of 12 missing children. In 1892, a drifter named Ronald McDonald toured county fairs across the Midwest. Bright red coat, yellow waistcoat, white gloves to the elbows, a painted smile so wide it cut into his cheeks. He called his tent the Happy Meal. Admission was free for children. Inside, the light was dim. The air smelled of sweet bread and varnish. Each child got a small paper box, red, with a yellow emblem brushed on the side. Inside, a soft bun, a slice of cold meat, a hand-carved wooden toy, and a card. Eat up. Come back tomorrow. Parents saw nothing wrong, but children stepped out pale and silent. Some wouldn't eat for days. Some wouldn't speak at all. By summer's end, 12 children had vanished from towns where his tent appeared. When the law searched his wagon, they found it empty, except for a crate of red paint, yellow cloth, and dozens of unused paper boxes. 20 years later, an advertising company in Chicago bought an old fairground poster to inspire a new mascot for a growing restaurant chain. They kept the name, they kept the colors, they kept the smile, and every time you've seen it since, you've been looking at a killer's face.
A clown who brings joy to millions, now repurposed as a touring killer. The smile we've known since childhood is corrupted, turning a beloved icon into a symbol of our darkest fears.
This is the real Goofy. He wasn't a dog. His face was stolen from a boy locked in an asylum. In 1903, the Indiana State Children's Home kept a ward for the incurable, children with jaws that never closed, strapped to iron beds. One boy laughed without pause, high, broken, almost animal. He laughed until his lips split and his throat bled. Visitors wrote they could hear it echoing down the halls at night. Nurses called him Goof. When he died at 13, his file vanished. But the photographs remained, a long body, sagging ears sewn from bandages. 2 decades later, animators were shown those photographs in secret, told they were reference material. They traced a dead child's grin onto paper, frame by frame. Even the sound department was told to mimic the pitch of his broken laugh, pressing wax needles deeper each time he screamed. In 1932, Goofy appeared on screen. Same grin, same laugh. Families who had children in that asylum swore they recognized the sound. Because it wasn't created, it was taken. That laugh you still hear, high, cracked, unchanged in a century, isn't a cartoon. It's a boy who never stopped. And every rerun, every recording, repeats his last breath forever.
Goofy, a cartoon dog known for his kind, clumsy nature, is now the subject of a horrifying, fabricated backstory. This video reminds us that nothing is safe from the digital abyss, not even the most innocent of characters.
This is the real-life Barbie. She wasn't plastic, she was colder. In 1961, Barbara Lane was 24, a failed model with a flawless smile. She called herself an expert in transformation. Her first finishing academy opened in Los Angeles. They promised beauty, confidence, love, and for the right price, a new face. Hundreds came, teachers, secretaries, housewives, all desperate to be seen. They signed contracts they never read. They posed for photographs before the surgeries. They handed over savings, identities, trust. And when it was done, they recovered, looking almost the same. Their faces subtly altered, but eerily similar, just a little more hollow. Barbara didn't just want to change them. She wanted to own them. Every woman became part of her marketing, faces on billboards, names in testimonials. But over time, the surgery started to wear. Scars formed, smiles stiffened, and when they complained, she blamed them for failing to maintain perfection. If they persisted, she sued them for defamation. When investigators came, she smiled for the cameras, because in the end, she'd already won. The perfect woman they envied wasn't a victim, she was the predator.
A seemingly perfect doll, a symbol of beauty and femininity, is reimagined as a monstrous figure operating on women. The plastic smile of Barbie becomes a vacant, unsettling mask for a sinister purpose.
This is the real-life Rapunzel. In 1867, during renovations at the Saint-Lazare Monastery in northern France, workers dismantling a sealed tower discovered something strange, a rusted chain bolted inside the upper window. It was long enough to reach the ground. At the base of the tower, beneath a layer of bricks and rotted planks, they found a skeleton. Female, estimated age 17. The wrists were fractured, the ankles had been bound with waxed linen cord. Locals said the tower was used for preparation. Only one girl was ever seen at the window. Her hair was never cut. Every Friday, a basket was raised by rope and lowered again, empty. Inside the plaster walls, workers found something else. Strands of hair, long, dark, braided, embedded into the mortar. Woven between the stones, lacquered flat, layered in spiral patterns from floor to ceiling. It wasn't decorative, it was structural. There is no record of her birth, no name. Just one note in the monastery archive written in Latin, Et Deum per elevationem, to God by elevation.
A body is found in a tower, a 17-year-old girl. Rapunzel, the fairy tale of golden hair, is rewritten as a true crime story. This is the horror of fiction being forced into a new, bleak reality.
This is the real-life Sleeping Beauty. She died, but no one ever buried her. In 1874, 11-year-old Clara de Vries stopped breathing after a sudden fever. Her parents never called a doctor, never told the neighbors. They dressed her in white and laid her back in bed, then waited. They said she was resting, that she'd wake up when the time was right. Every morning, her mother brushed her hair and changed the flowers on the nightstand. Her father read to her from children's books. They told friends she was recovering from an illness. No one was allowed into the bedroom. This photo was taken in 1881. It's the only existing image of Clara. Historians now classify it as a post-mortem portrait. But back then, her parents had it framed and hung in the hallway. In 1892, the house was raided by police after reports of a strange smell. They found Clara still in bed, dressed, unmoving. Beside her sat her mother, barely conscious. Her father had already died, sitting in the same chair, holding a book. There is no official death certificate, no burial record, only the photo. And the last thing her mother ever said, she's almost ready to wake up.
The princess who waits for a kiss is now a victim in a violent, fabricated tale. The innocence of the story is shattered, turning a timeless fairy tale into a modern-day horror story.
This is the real-life Little Mermaid. In 1891, a group of children playing near the docks in Le Croisic, France, saw a girl crawl out of the Atlantic. She was barefoot, in a soaked white cotton shift, maybe 9. Her hair was tangled with seaweed, but her skin was dry. She didn't speak, didn't smile, didn't seem to blink. They brought her to the convent school. The nuns said she was a castaway, silent, dehydrated, in shock. They gave her a bed, a name, and rest. No record survives of what name. Only a handwritten note in the school log. Admitted, refuses food. Eyes do not adjust to candlelight. At night, the other girls said she would sit up and hum strange, slow melodies no one recognized. The water in the wash basin turned cloudy when she touched it. By the second week, one girl disappeared. Her shoes were found on the beach, filled with wet sand. Then another. The girl from the sea never asked where they'd gone. She just kept humming. On the 15th morning, her bed was empty, only a faint trail of dried salt across the floor leading to the window. To this day, the room remains sealed. The convent moved buildings in 1912, but that door was never opened again. And the girls say, if you hear humming near the shore, don't look back.
The Little Mermaid, a story of sacrifice for love, is corrupted into a violent account. The video doesn't just twist a story, it rips out the heart of it, replacing it with a cruel and baseless fabrication.
This is the real life of Maleficent. She wasn't born a witch. You made her one. Her name was Maria, quiet, dressed in black. In 1934, she was hired by the Oswell family to care for their baby, Aurora. The mother traveled, the father drank. For 2 years, Maria was the only one who stayed. She held the child through fevers, sang to her before sleep, tucked in her blankets like armor. One night, a scream echoed through the stone halls. Aurora had fallen down the stairs. Maria was found on the floor beside her, begging for help. They said she was too attached, too close, too strange. They locked her in a hospital and never let her see the child again. 14 years passed. The castle began preparing for Aurora's 16th birthday. But the week before, 3 staff members vanished, all last seen in the West Wing, Maria's old quarters. One maid claimed she saw a woman in a black veil, standing in the hallway. The next morning, Aurora didn't come down. She was found in bed, peaceful, still. No wound, no struggle, just a folded note under her pillow. You called me dangerous. Now she sleeps forever. You were right.
Maleficent, a figure of pure evil, is given a tragic human origin. The video creates a twisted empathy for the villain, proving that even our sense of good and evil can be manipulated by a made-up story.
This is the real LaBubu. He wasn't born in a toy factory. He was sown from graves. In the late 19th century, a man in England spent his nights in cemeteries. He believed children could be brought back to life if their bodies were preserved as dolls. Not a sadist, not a killer, a believer. He dug into small coffins, lifted out what was left, and carried them home to his workshop. There, he cleaned the bones, stuffed the bodies with straw, wrapped them in patched fabric, smiles stitched shut to hold the soul inside. He dressed them in ribbons and coats, seated them in chairs, spoke to them as if they were his daughters returned. When police broke in, they found rows of figures, some with hair braided into seams, some with fingernails hidden under cloth, everyone heavier than it should have been. The dolls were taken, the record sealed, and the name erased from history. Decades later, the same design returned, not as evidence, as merchandise. Every LaBubu grin is a copy, not a creation. And if one sits in your home, you haven't bought a toy. You've joined someone else's resurrection.
A fictional monster, known for its mischievous nature, is now given a real-life legend. The video manufactures an ancient terror, proving that new lore is being created in real time, whether we are ready for it or not. This isn't just a new reality, it's a living fiction. A new history is being written in the shadows of the web. And now, if you've seen these videos, you are a part of it. The lines between real and fake are gone. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and until next time.